Well, there are times when we all need a helping hand, even when it's from another galaxy. That's Dennis Quaid as the imperiled Earthling, and Louis Gossett Jr., believe it or not, as his rescuer inside that intergalactic lizard suit. They're stranded together in a hostile planet in the new sci-fi spectacular Enemy Mine. Just one of 4 new films we'll be reviewing on this week's Sneak Previews. I'm Michael Medved.
And I'm Jeffrey Lyons, and in addition to Enemy Mine, we'll review Runaway Train, a thriller about 2 convicts hurtling through an Alaskan snowstorm on a train out of control. And Revolution, with Al Pacino, of all people, portraying an embittered fighter in the American Revolution. And RAN, the great Japanese director Akira Kurosawa's sweeping epic vision of King Lear. And Nancy Glass will tell us about 2 movies she wishes she'd missed this holiday season. Christmas gifts she'd like to return. Michael is up first with his review of Runaway Train. And Michael, just looking at those scenes of the Alaskan winter gives me the shivers.
Well, Jeffrey, I think some of the other scenes may induce other physiological reactions. The new thriller Runaway Train stars Jon Voight and Eric Roberts as a pair of desperate inmates who escape from a maximum security prison, then battle the elements in the frozen wastes of Alaska. With a sadistic warden hot on their trail, they make their way to a locker room in a railroad yard for a few moments of much-needed warmth.
Shoes, Manny. What we got? Shoes. Let there be shoes, man. I want that, Manny. I want that. I need some shoes, man. I need some shoes. Manny, check it out, man. Check it out.
Take one for the stomach, give it here.
Oh, mama.
Okay, come on. Let's go.
Wait, man, I need shoes. I need shoes. I got shoes. I need socks. Give me a minute, man. Just a minute. Okay.
With this new equipment well in hand, or at least on feet, they hop onto a speeding freight train. But then, in one of those great movie coincidences, the engineer conveniently drops dead of a heart attack. Now, this means that the 2 prisoners are on board an out-of-control runaway train, and they're both going to die in a fiery crash unless they can climb into the cab and apply the brakes. Now, the big question is, which one of them is going to do the job? And the incongruous presence of an assistant engineer, played by Rebecca De Mornay, only adds to their confusion.
Okay, I'm going.
No! No, he's using you! He's using you! Don't go!
You're going something. You're going to do what I tell you, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's right. You're going to do it.
Do it yourself if you're so brave!
I would if I had 2 hands.
You think you can sacrifice someone else's life instead of your own? You're an animal.
No. Worse. Human. Human! Down!
Yeah.
Get the hell out of it! Get up!
I'm not letting you go! No! No!
Don't you touch her! I'll kill you, man. I'll kill you.
You die, sucker! You die!
I'll kill you, man. Don't make me kill you. I'll kill you. I'll kill you, man. Don't make me kill you. I'll kill you. Come on, man. I'll kill you, man. Don't make me kill you, man. I'll beat you. Come on, man. It's time me. Try me.
Kill him! Kill him! Kill him!
Go ahead, kill him already. By now, it ought to be obvious that this is a very silly film with a very silly plot. But the distinguished Soviet director Serge Konchalovsky treats this material as if it were War and Peace. He seems to be straining for some sort of profound parable about the arms race. You see, they're trapped together on a speeding train heading for oblivion, but the 2 prisoners can't even cooperate to save themselves. Well, they certainly can't cooperate to save this picture. Yes, some of the early prison scenes have a shocking brutality to them, and some of the outdoor photography is beautiful, but the outrageous overacting quickly upstages even all that magnificent Alaskan scenery. Jon Voight is by far the worst offender. He's so utterly out of control, in fact, that they should have warned the audience by giving this picture a new title, Runaway Actor.
Absolutely right, Mike. I'm a big fan of Jon Voight's, but here he does a D's, Dems, and Do's accent as if he's punch drunk from the Champ. It's a total distraction, and it just really takes your focus away from where it should be.
And talk about change of focus. They try to make this sort of like a disaster film. They keep cutting back to the railroad control tower and tell you they're going to crash into a chemical plant and humanity's going to be threatened. And a runaway train just isn't very scary.
This is taken from a screenplay by Akira Kurosawa, who directed RAN, which we'll be doing later. But the movie's very confinement, and the second half of the picture is what does it in, because once the statement is made that good versus evil in the arms race is made, there's nothing else. It's not really an enjoyable experience sitting through any of this. It doesn't have to be enjoyable, but you don't grow. It's not edifying at all.
Absolutely. The point about the Kurosawa screenplay is he wrote it 20 years ago and then never made it. He had the good judgment to put it on the shelf, and that's where it should have stayed.
And Eric Roberts is good in every other picture, and this is one of his off pictures. A wonderful actor, but here he and Voight try to outact each other.
So next time, take the plane.
That's right, Michael. Coming up, Revolution and RAN. But our next movie is Enemy Mine, directed by Wolfgang Petersen, who made Das Boot. It's a sort of a science fiction yarn about an astronaut played by Dennis Quaid, who's shot down by alien beings called Dracs. He's forced to land on a deserted planet somewhere, but his only companion is the very Drac who shot him down. Now, the Drac is portrayed by Lou Gossett. After their initial conflicts, they eventually learn to tolerate one another, since they have to do so to survive. And then they grow to become friends. And in this scene, the Drac is learning to talk and learns how beauty is surely in the eye of the beholder. My Earthman teacher was goofy. The days grow to weeks and then to months, and their friendship grows deeper. It's their only shield, you see, against growing desperation at spending the rest of their days on that desolate planet. Then one day, the Drac tells the astronaut why he's been feeling a bit under the weather recently.
I am not.
Now, Enemy Mine looks to be a remake of Hell in the Pacific, in which Lee Marvin was marooned on an island with a Japanese soldier. All well and good to update it, I suppose, in the imaginative context of the future in outer space. But Enemy Mine quickly gets plotty and preachy. The message that we all must somehow learn to live with one another, especially our potential enemies, is noble, but it's obvious and continually restated. And when that's droned into us, the only twist the story seems to take is the birth of that baby Drac. It all gets a bit out of hand, and some of the supporting players look to have studied at the Drac School of Acting. They're that bad and amateurish. As for Enemy Mine, it'll quickly have you feeling like you're marooned alone forever in that theater.
Jeffrey, I didn't mind being in that theater at all. I thoroughly enjoyed this film. For one thing, it gives us the most moving, touching, convincing alien since E.T. Lou Gossett, inside that incredibly elaborate mask that you saw in those clips, is magnificent the way he's able to convey emotion.
I'll grant you that. He's a magnificent actor, never better than here. But you know that the astronaut escapes because he narrates to us later with lines like, "Time passes as it does, time stopped." Who writes dialogue like that?
But there's still enough surprises and enough new information that they throw at you about this Drac culture that they create, which I found fascinating. The idea that these are creatures who have no sexual differentiation to them at all. There's only one sex, and that one sex produces the babies. The whole thing about the Drac religion I found fascinating and imaginative, inventive, a satisfying science fiction film.
That's one person's vision. It didn't keep my interest. Also, the movie seems to repeat itself. He finds a monster and he kills it, and then the monster comes back 10 minutes later. That means it's running out of things to say.
But the special effects were so good and so convincing, I didn't mind. This was one expensive, elaborate movie that I thought was worth the money.
Two-character play has to be very interesting. This wasn't.
Our next film, another very expensive film, is Revolution, and it's from another distinguished director. This time, it's Hugh Hudson, the director of Chariots of Fire, presenting a sweeping story of the American War for Independence. Now, Al Pacino plays a humble, peace-loving fur trader who tries to save his 14-year-old son after the boy has impulsively signed up for the Revolutionary Army.
Here, here's your $5 back. It was a mistake.
Where do you think you're going, mister? Step back here at once! What do you think you're doing?
I was in the commissary. I come out, I found out he joined.
That's right.
But it's a mistake. He ain't joined.
Is this a mistake,
See, I
Corporal
know the $5
Spencer?
back.
I recognize the boy.
Show him the roll book.
Top the list.
I know his name. I'm his pa. I told you he ain't joined.
Yes,
No.
he has.
No, he ain't had my permission.
Makes no difference. He received the 5 shillings and he signed his name.
Right here. Well, you just cross his name off with that quill there, see? Then it never happened. Come on.
Detain that man! Hold him there!
You can't just take him.
They're all somebody's sons, mister. And they're all willing to shed their blood fighting tyranny. Ask your boy, who's war? All right, let's move on!
Now!
Come, let's move on!
Here ain't his war! Come on, you guys!
You can't force him in. Oh, Sergeant. Come now. You gotta be a family man. I've had 3 kids. 1 wife dead. That's all I got living on. Come on, you can't take it.
Sons go to war because fathers don't. You want to see your son again? Sign the roll book. Hold it! If you do that one more...
Now, to protect his boy, Pacino follows him into battle. But for the first 2/3 of this very long movie, he keeps telling us, "It's not my fight," and trying to desert. In the end, love for a fiery colonial girl played by Nastasia Kinski inspires him to commit himself to the patriot cause. But he maintains his skeptical attitude toward authority, and once the war is over, he tries to collect the rewards that he's been promised.
All right, 10, 20, 13, 40, that's it. Coming next. That it?
Wait, where's the rest?
What rest, mister?
$70.
They've been devalued. That's all them old Continentals is worth now. You take it or leave it. Well, move along, you're holding up the queue.
Don't be pushing me.
I'm not pushing, I'm very busy now.
You,
Come on.
what happened to the 150 acres?
What you complaining about,
I'm not complaining. I'm asking a question. What happened to the 150 acres I was promised?
Listen, you got 2 arms and 2 legs and 2 eyes, haven't you? Now move on, I'm very busy. Right.
I told you, keep your hands off me.
You're holding up the line,
I'm
mister.
asking you a question.
You're holding up the line.
I'm asking you a question.
What
What
is
happened to the 150 acres of land I was promised?
It was sold by Congress to speculators to pay for the war debt. All right? Now move it.
I'm the bloody war debt.
Are you?
Yeah, this chit here, that's a bloody war debt. We all the bloody war debt.
So why don't you go to Congress? Don't tell me. You go to Congress, all of you, and you tell them.
No, I'll tell you,
Come on,
because you're
next.
standing here.
I'm not interested in talking to you. Come on, next.
Where's this Congress you're talking?
Congress is coming here.
Where?
You go and tell them.
Where they come?
They're on their way.
When?
They're coming, damn you. I told you they're coming.
Damn you.
Go on, get out.
All these men here, we all fought for something, and we got it.
Yeah. Well, you think I didn't fight?
You take it from us, and we're gonna fight again.
I'm taking nothing from you. You open your mouth to Congress. It's where your mouth belongs, not to me.
My mouth belongs anywhere I put it.
Well, his mouth, or at least his accent, certainly doesn't belong in this movie. Now, with the patriotic mood that's been sweeping the country, the time would seem to be perfect for a stirring story of the colony's incredible struggle for independence. But revolution isn't it. There's plenty of spectacle here, but very little passion. Director Hudson seems more concerned with his beautifully crafted sets and costumes than he is with people or with ideas. This movie tries to combine an epic view of great events with a tight, personal focus on one man and his son. But neither the history nor the drama are ever adequately developed. What's more, Al Pacino is all wrong as a rough and ready colonist. He's much too obviously a modern-day New Yorker. In sum, Revolution is a sadly disappointing movie that manages to make some of the most exciting events in the history of mankind seem dry, dull, and depressing.
It's like casting Richard Gere in King David. Pacino's
Also
a
not
great
a good
actor who was totally wasted here. This is a movie of processions. If you like parades, you like marching armies, and an occasionally well-done war sequence, I guess this picture is for you. But other than that, it's totally ridiculous.
Yeah, a part of the problem is that both the Americans and the British are portrayed in such unsympathetic
Absolutely.
terms. Director Hugh Hudson, when they announced that an Englishman was going to be
right.
directing this film, there was a British headline that said, maybe this time we'll win. Nobody wins in this movie because they all come out badly.
You also don't care about the relationship and don't understand that between Nastasia Kinski and Al Pacino, they're mismatched as potential lovers. lovers. There's no reason why they should be attracted to each other. And the way they constantly find each other over the years is totally implausible.
Nonsense. Part of the problem is it's a very long movie as it is, almost 3 hours long. But you feel like it was even longer, and they cut out great big bleeding chunks of it. They're big plot holes that make no sense at all.
Little by little, it's opening across the country. I think the film company knew that this picture should be buried. It's a wasted effort. It's a good actor lost amidst beautiful costumes and settings, but totally miscast.
Agree with you.
Well, our next movie is totally different. It's about a different war. In fact, it's called RAN, which in Japanese means chaos or turmoil. It's the 27th film from director Akira Kurosawa, the most expensive film ever made in Japan. RAN is his vision of King Lear, meshed with 16th century civil war in Japan. Now, this 3-hour movie is filled with stirring battle sequences, forceful acting, and one betrayal after another. An aged feudal warlord has decided to abdicate his power and divide his land among his 3 sons and live his life in tranquility. But you know from Lear, of course, that was a bad idea. And soon one son raises an army against another, and battle and misery are joined. Now, 75-year-old Akira Kurosawa is widely regarded as the greatest living film director, an opinion I happen to share. His latest movie has thrilling vistas, brilliantly conceived battles, and an intense style of acting we see here in the West all too rarely. Japanese actors use their faces, their bodies, and especially their voices in ways actors trained here never even approach. Kurosawa's world depicts loyalty as a suspect and life very cheap, yet honor all important. RAN is riveting and stirring, and Kurosawa's backdrop for one of the greatest tragedies ever written is awesome in its sweep. RAN is a crowning achievement to Kurosawa's magnificent career, and it's on my list of best pictures of this or any year for that matter, Michael.
Jeffrey, masterpiece is one of those words that's overused in most film criticism, but it's definitely a word that applies here. For what it is, this film is impossible to beat. But I think people should be warned that it's very much like a Japanese print. It's sort of flattened out, it's stately, it's slow. It's no kind of edge-of-your-seat thriller.
Not to sound snobbish, it is for a sophisticated audience primarily, but boy, once you look at it, it's like looking into another world. Even his extras in the background are disciplined-looking actors. That's the sign of impeccable direction.
And so brilliantly stylized. One of the things that Kurosawa has said he was trying to do here was to try to approximate some of the stereotypes, some of the archetypes that appear in kabuki drama, the traditional Japanese mask play. And he does that here brilliantly with some of the makeup and the masks that appear.
And he says the similarities to Lear only occurred to him halfway through the making of this movie, which I found bizarre.
Which is hard to believe.
Whatever happened, whatever he did was right. This is an awe-inspiring achievement.
So in other words, Jeffrey, we certainly agree that RAN is a very, very welcome holiday gift from the Japanese film industry to American audiences.
Better than Godzilla, right?
Even better than that, that's right. But Hollywood, meanwhile, has prepared several seasonal offerings that moviegoers might want to return. Now, here's our own Nancy Glass to tell us about 2 of them.
Thanks, Michael and Jeffrey. I got a couple of things I didn't want for Christmas. I got a bad cold, and I got 2 bad movies. The worst of the Christmas season has to be King Solomon's Mines, starring Richard Chamberlain, who looks like he's been dipped in a vat of man-tan. He's an adventurer, whatever that means, who hooks up with a ditzy college student. She's looking for her father. Her father's looking for the mine's riches. And everywhere you look, there are bands of bad guys out to get them and the treasure. The villains include African natives, Arabs, Germans, and a Turk. A cast of thousands. Our hopeless heroes run from one dumb mishap to another in search of a storyline that's impossible to follow. The dialogue is predictable.
Well, do something. You're the adventurer.
Sure, you take the 1,000 on the right, I'll take the 1,000 on the left.
The acting is laughable.
Well, I don't need to die with dignity.
You may not have to worry. But what's confusing is that for years, Richard Chamberlain has been trying to prove himself as a serious actor. In this, he only acts embarrassed. And who can blame him? The action sequences are slow, and the suspense wouldn't kill anyone. I don't want to give you the wrong impression. This movie isn't just shallow and stupid. It's also offensive. Here, the natives are reduced to racist stereotypes. They're characterized as buffoons, subhumans, and cannibals.
Apparently, they prefer white meat.
That's supposed to be campy? Someone should throw it on a campfire. I can't tell what this movie's trying to be. It isn't romantic, it isn't funny, it isn't adventurous, it's barely a movie. I also received a horrendous horror film, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge. In this sequel, Freddy, the guy with the bad manicure, is back to possess the body of Jesse, an uncoordinated kid who has just moved into the sinister house where the last movie took place. This poor teenager is plagued by nightmares in which Freddy, a walking food processor, appears along with some really bad special effects. My sentiments exactly. Jesse's nightmares lead him into the basement where old Freddy tells him to go out and kill. Why do these things always happen in the basement? No one ever gets terrorized in the dining room. Brutal murders begin, and Jesse knows whose handiwork it is. So, does he go to his parents? Does he go to the police? No, he wanders around the streets at night, visits an S&M bar, an abandoned power plant, all the things anyone in fear for his life would do. Finally, Freddy stops by a poolside bash to sever a few relationships. Talk about killing a party. There's a lot of running and crying, but it isn't the sweat and tears the audience is looking for, it's the blood. And there's plenty of it. Well, Michael and Jeffrey, I tried them. They just didn't fit. Maybe I'll do better next year.
I sure hope so. Summarizing our opinions on the movies we reviewed this week, neither Michael nor I could endure 2.5 hours of revolution. It has wonderful, authentic sets and locations, but Al Pacino fighting in the Revolution? Not a chance. And we disagreed on Enemy Mine. I thought it was preachy and repetitious with an obvious message, but Michael found it imaginative, beautifully crafted, and continually surprising. On Runaway Train, we agreed that we have nothing more here than an overdone, pretentious disaster movie. This train leads straight to tedium. But we did find RAN, director Akira Kurosawa's sweeping version of King Lear, to be a stunning epic. That's the movie to see this week.
That's certainly true, especially considering some of the competition. So join us next week when we take a look at the best and the worst movies of 1985. We'll show scenes from The Color Purple, Back to the Future, Twice in a Lifetime, Out of Africa, and other films that appear on my best list or on Jeffrey's. So until then, don't forget on sneak previews to save us the aisle seats.